What the fuck is up, Fred heads? How's it going? Doing all right? Welcome to another episode of the FredTalk podcast. We're in video now. We're upgrading. Like I've always said, find yourself a medium-sized white dude. They will help you get to the next level, all right? Find you one, okay? Shout out to Between Two Clouds. We are at Clouds 2 Studio. My boy Bob Clouds, my boy Frazier. We're here and I have a great conversation with Maddie today. It's awesome. Maddie Wiener. I met her starting comedy out in North Carolina here. Now she's moved on to Chicago and she's doing big things. She's got, I believe, a stand-up clip from the Laugh Factory that's got like 16 million views or something like that, which is fucking insane. She's 21 years old, been doing comedy 5 years, and I mean, we just get into it. She tells us stories about being on the road, starting stand-up, what her goals are. We have a good old time having some good laughs. Guys, remember to subscribe, rate, and review to the FredTalk podcast, people. Listen, if they go, what is FredTalk about? You be like, listen, if you like getting better and you like having a good time while doing it, that's what we're going to do, all right? We're going to have inspirational stories on. We're going to have stories where people talk shit. We're going to have stories where people fuck up. It's all about, the full circle of life. It ain't just about hey, we're going to get better. We got to acknowledge the fucked up part too. So I feel like that's what FredTalk does. And we do that through raw conversations with everyday people in the midst of the come up. So if you feel like you have a story that would be worthy, let's do it. I don't mean worthy as in like it needs to be, everybody has a story. If you're willing to share, we can make it happen. My job is to set the stage so you can knock it out of the fucking park, right? So I'd like to focus a little bit more on relationships as well moving forward. So I want to cover more relationships. So if you've been through a breakup or in the middle of a breakup and want to share, let's do it. Guys, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple iTunes and on YouTube as well, because this shit's going up on YouTube. So without any further ado, guys, give it up for Maddie Wiener.
Welcome to FredTalk, where if you're not learning, hopefully you're laughing.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to FredTalk. I'm here at Cloud 2 Studios with my fucking medium-sized white dude, Bob Clouds, my producer and friend, and maybe fuck buddy. We don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen here? It's FredTalk. We're all open-minded. We're going to see what's going to happen. I'm here with amazing comic and motherfucking shooting star of triangle comedy, and also very soon probably the fucking world. Guys, give it up for Maddie Wiener. Maddie, what's up, girl?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Boom. White girl crushed it. Better handshake than any white dude I've ever.
Can't believe I just did that.
Yeah, you
Honestly,
you stuck the
let's take a
landing.
moment.
It was good.
I'm done. That's all I came here to do.
So what's up? So you're 5 years into comedy. We were talking about you being on the road. What's that been like being on the road?
That was super cool. So this summer, me and another comic, Carly Kane, who's a really, really great Chicago comic, and like a friend, we tried to do like a month, I guess we did successfully do a month on the road. And we built, Cliff Cash?
Yes.
So he has this thing in the back of his car that's like a wooden platform with a bed on it, but then you can store stuff underneath. There's like drawers and stuff for like food and camping supplies. And so we did that. My grandpa, my dad, and I have a Jeep Cherokee, so we just put down the back seats. So there's like a flat area. It's like a little smaller than a twin bed. And then we built this like wooden platform, and then we just put like Tupperware like under like plastic bins underneath it.
Yeah.
And so we had mattress toppers. Like there was a full bed on it, and then from the
regular car.
Yeah, and then from the side doors of the car and from the back trunk, you could access 4 different storage points under the bed. And then we also had like an extra jug of water, like just on the floor, and like first aid kit, batteries. We got a lot of like ramen noodles, canned foods, like pots and pans, like all the camping stuff to cook with. And then we borrowed, those big like storage things in the top of the cars?
Yeah.
We borrowed another one of those from a friend, but it was too long. So if the trunk opened all the way, it would like push it and start to pull it off the rails. So we had this whole bungee cord system so that to make the trunk only open like 3/4 of the way. It was a very elaborate setup. But once we had that, we got all that shit together in North Carolina. And then I was driving from North Carolina up to Chicago. And on the way, I was going to stop in Indiana to do this festival. And so I spent one night in Kentucky, camped on a campsite, and then I was going to go the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And I pulled up to the campsite, and sorry, I'm like walking you through the whole trip.
No, this is good.
So I pulled up to the campsite, and this just me at this point with the bed and everything in the back of the car. I'm like, I'm fucking ready to do the month in the road. It's gonna be awesome. And then I park the car. I go and I like register for the campsite. I'm like, great, thanks. Get the little sticker. Come back, and the car won't start. And I'm like, and so I try it again, and it's like not even like puttering, you know what I mean? It's not even like,
it's not even.
It is doing nothing. Like the lights won't even turn on. Like it is dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. So I get some other people from the, can we cuss? I didn't even think about that. Okay. So I get some other people from the camp. I'm like, hey, like my car's dead. Can you help me? They try to jump start it. It won't jump start. And I'm supposed to be in a festival the next day. I'm doing like Limestone Festival in Indiana the next day. So I'm like, I need this car like by tomorrow morning. And the jump start won't work. And so then I'm like, whatever, I have the bed in the car. And I was like, hey, I can't pull up to my campsite. Can I just sleep in the parking lot of the campsite office? And they were like, yeah, like we won't tow you. So I just rolled down the windows a little bit. It was enough power in it to roll down the windows halfway, and I just slept in the car. And luckily, I had all the camping supplies, so I had like a solar-powered lamp and shit. And I was like, all right. And I remember that was like a great moment. I had Steve Martin's book about stand-up, and I was just sitting in a broken-down car in Kentucky reading this book about like, you gotta, like, stand-up will be hard sometimes. And I was like, fucking yeah, like, this is brutal. But luckily, you know, I was like, oh, that could have happened an hour ago at a gas station or some shit. Like, luckily it broke down at the campsite. So, like, 6 a.m., I called AAA, and they, sorry, I'm just, like, monologuing. Like,
No, go ahead.
it was AAA, and they got there, and they were able to jump-start it, and they were like, hey, we jump-started it, but if you stop your car, like, it's not gonna start again. You gotta drive straight to Indiana. So I was like, okay, I had like 3/4 a tank of gas, so I just drove straight to Indiana, straight to a car place, and was like, hey, this car is like broken. I really need you to fix it because I need to live out of it for a month. I'm about to put like 1,000 miles on it, and they're like, okay. Turns out my battery was dead, and my transmission was shot.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, they were like, it's kind of amazing that you made it here. So I gave it to them, did the festival, got it fixed, went to Chicago, and then we did our whole route. That was a long way to say that, but it was fucking scary because I was like, this is the worst time for my car to break down.
What? So was it something in modifying the car that made it fuck up, or was it?
No, it was just fucked.
Coincidence. Oh, damn.
And I had just gotten it inspected too, and they're like, you're good to go, have fun on your road trip, and they just like missed this somehow, so.
Yeah, I remember the days of me having car troubles, and that was like one of the worst anxieties of like not having the like reliability of, you know, like not feeling like you can make it from A to B.
Yeah.
Like, were you weirded out after they fix it? Were you kind of like, oh fuck, did they really fix it? Like,
oh yeah, because then there was, so I picked up her in Chicago, and then we started on the road, and we went, the first route we did was, you know, we spent like 2 12-hour days or something going to like the, what was it, Omaha? No, was it Omaha? But we went through like Iowa and stuff, and then we got to like Denver, and then we went from Denver down to like Utah. And then Utah through like Arizona. And through the Utah-Arizona area was like lots of areas with like no cell phone service. It's like 100 degrees. There's no other cars on the road. And it's just totally flat, like nothing in either direction. And it's beautiful, but we're also like two like young women, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, if my car breaks down again, like we are fucked. So that was kind of scary because then I was like, okay, now we're going to be, what was good is that I had AT&T and she had Verizon. So usually if one of us didn't have service, the other one at least had like a bar.
yeah.
But it didn't break down again and we were good. And then we went up to like Kansas City, North Carolina, Atlanta, North Carolina, DC, Philly, New York, Ohio, back to Chicago.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a blast and like the shows were really cool.
That'd be a good like commercial for like what is it, like bipartisan politics, like the AT&T and Verizon.
Yeah.
Sometimes one doesn't do it, and the other one will. like let's just, you know.
Yeah, you can't rely on one system.
Yeah. So how old are you now?
I'm 21.
21. And when did you start comedy?
16.
16. What made you want to start?
It was kind of an accident, but my friend had uploaded, or a girl I knew from high school had uploaded a video of her doing an open mic at DSI in Chapel Hill when that was still around. And I was like, oh, that seems like fun or whatever. And I like ran some bits by my parents and I was like, this would be cool. I went there and it was like a lottery. So I got 1 minute. And then I did 1 minute and I met actually two of like my best friends now. 3 guys were there. It was Jason Zaremba, Kenyon, and Sam Prickett were all there at the first open mic I did. And I was like, whatever. This is just like, it was like a Wednesday, and I was like, this is a fun thing to do after high school. And they were like, you should keep coming around to like open mics, like all this other stuff. And so Kenyon and Prickett really like kind of like took me under their wing and like showed me around the scene and stuff. And like I couldn't drive yet, so they would like give me rides some places. And like, and then after a couple months, I was like, oh, I guess I'm doing this. And now I'm like 100%. Like this is the only. Now I've committed too much of my formative years to it, where I have no other marketable skills.
No, you're still early and you're 21 years old.
But I'm pretty set on it. But thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna do it. What's up to this point, 5 years in? What's been your most notable like comedy event?
Probably the Cellar. Probably performing. I'm not like in it, but performing at the Cellar was so cool because it was like the end of that 1 month that Carly and I went on the road, and like in the middle of the day, this guy Jared Freed, who, thank you, messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you want to open for me at Pat by Pussycat, one of the Cellar rooms?" And I was like, yes, like of course, like what? And it was like so last minute, and I was like, okay, I gotta like figure out what I'm doing. I like bought new jeans because I had brought like this shitty grungy stuff to New York, because I was like, oh, we're just gonna do open mics and like go see shows. And then I was like, oh, it's about to be the best day of your life. You gotta, buy a t-shirt or something. And so I don't know, yeah, it was really, really cool, and he was just so nice, and like he let me he was like, yeah, come sit at the table, like you perform. And it was so cool. And it was awesome. And I don't know, I got to do like 20 minutes opening for him and then like bring him up, and
Damn.
It was just like, I was like, that it could have been awful, you know what I mean? I was just like, the fact to be in there was just like the coolest thing ever, because I was like, I idolized this place so much, and like it was just insane. That was a moment where I was like, oh, I kind of can't believe this is happening, and if you showed my 16-year-old self this, like I wouldn't believe you.
From that point forward, how did that shift your perspective? Like,
it made me be like, why aren't you in New York? You know what I mean? Because I was like, it was kind of like, I get that a lot of New York probably would be like just slumming it at open mics and stuff, but we were there for 2 days, and this guy was like, oh, you're in town? Do you want to like stop by the Cellar? And I was like, why don't I live here? Like, why? Like, because it was like a Wednesday, and I was like, oh, what if this kind of stuff was happening? I don't know. It made me just, it made me want to like, I think there's this kind of like mysticism around like, oh, there's the people who actually do it, and there's the people in other scenes who like are working on it. And it's like, they're like obviously immensely better and have been doing it for longer, but it's like, there's not this like magical barrier. They just live in a place where people, like, I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out the way to phrase this, but like, okay, like I know someone in Chicago who's super funny and then got like a Comedy Central thing. And then it was that, like, it's kind of that realization of like, oh, you think there's like the people who actually do it and then us, but it's like at some point we become those people. You know what I mean? Everyone who did it started off as an open micer, and it's kind of this weird thing of like, oh, that wall is much more like permeable than I thought. Not that it's not hard, but just like there's no magic like moment where you're I don't know. This sounds so pretentious. I don't mean that I'm that. I just mean like it's cool to see friends get stuff and be like, oh, someone's on Comedy Central, or my friend got passed at the Cellar, and then it's like, oh yeah, that happens to normal people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. So it also, too, if you live in a place like Chicago or New York or LA, you're going to be around people that there's going to be more opportunities for headliners to say, hey, do you want to come open for me?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in a place that, if you're not in a hub, then how many actual headliners are going to, be able to do that?
Yeah. Totally. So it feels like this, like, otherworldly thing, but it's like, if you were doing the same thing you're doing here or there, you'd probably be fine. Yeah. I don't know. I hope that didn't come across as like pretentious at all. I don't know.
We lost a bunch of subscribers and followers. They're like, that girl, fuck her. She is a young girl following her dreams. She can go fuck herself.
Gross.
Yeah. So fucking dude. I mean, I'm like blown away. What's been your biggest struggle, would you say, in these last 5 years doing stand-up?
Ooh, writing enough. Probably. Because I think when I started, I was like, oh, I have no material, so I'm writing every day. And like, honestly, it's like embarrassing to admit, but I think I've gotten like a little bit lazy just because it's like, oh, well, if I don't write anything, I still have 10 minutes I can do on the show tonight. You know what I mean? It's not the same like desperation, which is kind of why I want to get to New York, because I want to be like scared and be like, oh shit, I gotta do something.
Give me that fucking boom.
That's the only way I like ever get motivated to do anything. You know what I mean? Like even in school, it's like I would never start projects on time. Like I gotta be like, oh shit, this is due tomorrow. In New York, I feel like every day you would feel like, I have an essay due tomorrow. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Just that pressure. Oh my God, yeah, it's terrible too, because you probably succeed, so which makes you go, I can procrastinate even more. What would you, if someone, people ask, like, if they do comedy, like, what's your comedy like? How do you answer that question?
Oh, gross? Like, gross and, I don't know. It's weird because I think, like, I think like people who like my grandma's seen my stand up.
What did she think?
And she was like, I'm just happy that you're doing it. Like she's like, I like it because you're doing it. I wouldn't be my cup of tea. But I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely like I've tried to be like, well, I should be clean because clean comics get to do cruise ships and that's just not gonna I am always gonna do better in like a dirty basement, I think is my ideal demographic.
Why do you think that is? Is there like something that kind of comes to mind when you think about that? Like, oh, it's probably...
I think my dad has a really dark sense of humor.
Okay, cool.
And like, he would like make jokes growing up that I was like, that I think probably like he says shit now that's like, I'm like, you're like a sick motherfucker.
What's his, because dad jokes are in now, so what's
I remember, like, this isn't even that like egregious, but it was just so off the cuff that I was like, wow, you really think like this. We were, the whole like people are debating if Adam Driver's hot. Everyone's like, is he hot? Like, it's hard to tell.
He's definitely not.
I think he's hot. Well, okay, but I asked my dad, I was like, do you think Adam Driver's hot? And he was like, yeah, in like a big, ugly nose kind of way.
I mean, that's...
And I was like, yeah, that's like, oh, I don't know, just like shit like that. Or like when, I don't know if they'd care about me talking about this. Whatever, it's pretty public news. My parents separated this year, and but they were like telling me, and it was like a very serious moment. And my dad just goes, yeah, we're going to cut the dog in half, too, so.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, in this, like, one of the, like, most serious moments, he was just like, yeah, we're going to cut the dog in half. And I was like, oh, that's probably why I'm, like, saying fucked up stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And so do you think you're just, like, probably not going to go the clean route?
I don't think so. I mean, there's times when, like, if you're a book, I can do clean, but no, I don't know. I mean, like, if I'm like hosting or something, I feel like you're like, oh, I can scrap together a clean 10 minutes, or I can like whatever. But it's like, I don't know, because even if it's like clean, I don't feel like I'm really good at like happy comedy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like there's like a feel good like Christian PG clean, and then there's like you could technically say that on TV clean, and I think I'm more of the second one.
You can say that. What was the second one again?
You could technically say that on TV.
Yeah.
But like when I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do my clean jokes. Like my clean jokes are still like about the Holocaust and depression and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a lot of like peanut butter cracker jokes.
Yeah.
Which I admire people who can, because that's like brilliant.
Yeah. That's like, oh yeah, something that you use every day, or like a straw or something like that, and having some crazy like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see that moment.
I also know I'm only like 5 years in and I'm still like a baby at this. So like, you know what I mean? Like hopefully as I go on, like I'll get better at, because there also is like, okay, of course it's easy to make sex jokes because it's like, yeah, that's like already funny. You know what I mean? Like it's like an easy like, so I don't know. But I also like the comedy that I like tends to be like darker and like dirtier too. Like I love like Stanhope and stuff. So I'm like, I don't know, that might just be like more my lane, but I feel like I'm still a baby, so we'll see what happens. What about you? Do you feel like you fall more into dirty or clean, or like would you like to go one way more than the other?
I was thinking about you saying like your stuff, you don't have happy comedy, I guess, but your attitude is bright and it's like funny. It's like kind of,
thank you.
Like, it doesn't come off like you're not like you're not like, oh, that girl's miserable. You never say that, or she's like, oh, fucking up the vibe. It's always like, oh shit, this girl's fucking awesome.
I was talking to JD about that, our friend who's a comic, and he was like, yeah, I think you can get away with saying more stuff, because he was like, I'm a big black dude. I can't like go up there and just immediately talk about abortion. Like people get freaked out, but if you're like, oh, I'm this like cute little white, like, oh no, did I say that? It's like, like that, you can kind of get away with more. And I hope I'm not like relying on that as like a crutch or anything, because you don't just be like, oh, the shock value of it. But that is kind of like a nice luxury to be like, oh, I can say like more fucked up stuff, and people I think give me a little more leeway because I do seem like like a happy little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with as deep as laughs you get, you can tell it's not like, oh, she's just going for shock value. It's like, these are her fucking weird fucking thoughts. Like,
Thank you.
yeah. It's good shit. I would say I'm starting to figure that out as well, because my whole life I've been able to say things and get away with it more than most people to like teachers, girls, parents, whatever. And now I'm starting to say more like, funny, fucked up things that I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking like a bit I'm working on now. It's fairly new, but it's like I'm saying how like I want to get pegged, because I'm gonna say like I'm like any American boy. I want to finger my ass when I have sex, and I have the crowd like, who likes to finger their ass, and they clap or whatever. And then I'm like the only thing I can't get over, like my machismo can't get over, is like the positions that I'm gonna take it.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, because missionary, I'm like, I'm like claustrophobic or whatever. I was like, if I had to do one, it might be doggy style, because like it's pretty freeing, like I can get leverage, grab onto things. But the one I'll never do is the one where I'm getting smashed from the side like this. Like,
and there also is like funny. I think that's like another thing of like playing off like the way that you look. It's like that's a funny statement in and of itself, but it becomes so much funnier because you're this like. The last person the last person you think about on your knees, like put it in my ass,
So just doing wild shit like that, I guess. I'm just because comedy fucks you up in a way. Like once you like decide to commit to it, you start going through your whole life being like, right? Have you done that? Like being like, what is funny? Why am I funny? Like, did you go through that at all, or like
why do I do this?
No, not why you do that, but like when you go through like the thinking part of it, where you're like, why am I funny? Why do people think I'm funny? Have you ever asked yourself that, or?
Interesting. I don't know.
Why do you think people think you're funny?
Oh, I don't know. Because I got like 5 decent jokes, and I tricked a lot of people into trusting me. I don't know. Well, that reminds me of this is sort of different, but it reminds me of a friend Eric Trundy told me one time about
he's got good advice.
Oh, he's got great advice. Yeah, like an exercise where he was like, I might be butchering this, but it was something like try to write out your whole life in like 2 minutes and say it to someone. And any point where someone goes, wait, what? That's what you should write about.
Oh,
because to you it seems so normal, but when someone else is like, oh no, that's weird, that's like an experience that people would want to hear about, which I think is really interesting. So I kind of try to do that, and then you like see things where you're like, oh yeah, I thought that was totally normal, but like that is kind of weird when you like to most people.
Well, what's that moment for you?
I don't know, like one thing, it feels a little hacky now, but like my dad has Asperger's, and it's not like, I think I say that and people are like, think that, I don't know, my dad's not, he's just like into computer, you know what I mean? Like he's like a normal guy, like that's not really, I think people kind of like extrapolate too much from that, but that is something where I'm like, or like the stuff my dad says, I'm like, or like being Jewish, or like, I don't know, like stuff where you're like, oh, to me that's like default, but to most people that's not default. So it's like maybe worth hearing about. Maybe, I don't know.
That's interesting. Whenever you say it, I'm like, oh shit, okay. Like, so.
But I also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I also like feel like I don't talk about myself that much. Like I like comedy more that's like outward. I mean, I don't know, like Drew Michael or something, where it's more like I thought about this idea and then here's my thoughts on it, but it's funny. I'm not saying I'm at all capable of doing that, but that's like what I'd like to try to do, because do you know Drew Michael at all?
No, I don't.
He's the guy who has that special with like no audience.
What the fuck?
Which I'm not. Whatever. That's cool.
How was it? Like,
it's weird because I saw him do that hour in Chicago in front of an audience, and it killed. And then the special, like, I don't know. I think it's cool. But I think it's almost more like performance art about stand-up than it is stand-up. Okay. It's kind of like Nanette, where I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't say that Nanette's good stand-up, but Nanette's an amazing one-woman show. I don't know. I think people get like all butthurt about like, whoa, it's not stand-up. And it's like, okay, why does it have to be? Yeah, and it's like, okay, but there's other like shit, and there's other types of art, and like, I don't know. But Drew Michaels is maybe like one of my favorite comics of all time. He's so good, and like, because before that, he has albums that are in front of full audiences that are like amazing, but he's so smart and like, I don't know, that like that's kind of like, I'm just obsessed with him. Yeah. I don't really know how we got on that tangent.
No, it's all good. What's your ultimate goal with like if you could fucking envision yourself 20 years from now?
20 years from now?
20 years from now.
Okay, so I'm 41.
Yeah, 41.
Hopefully I'm in New York, not broke as shit. Like I don't know. I would like to be like a touring comic.
Yeah.
Like hopefully, like because I don't know. I for me it's not really like a means to an ends of anything else. Like I'm like I really stand up is the thing I want to do. But it would be super cool to like I don't know try to get like a staff writing job or like try to make a movie or something or like write for a TV show. All that would be like awesome. But like I think. I don't know. Yeah, if I was just like making a living doing comedy, I would be happy.
That's fucking dude. You're putting that out into the universe. It's going through
Hopefully.
the FredTalk fucking. You got this, dude.
Go back and watch it. I'll go back and watch this when I'm 40. If the world's still around, actually that'll be my goal is to be living on a top story apartment in New York so that when the floods hit,
you'll
and
be
the
okay.
fucking solar flares happen and the dead polar bears are floating up. I'm like, I finally got into the Comedy Cellar and there's a dead polar bear that washed up on the steps and I'm like, all right.
Carcass, you have to use it to like hide yourself from the bands of raiders. That
I'm like trying to do. I'm like, why did I leave North Carolina? I should have stayed here and learned how to operate a gun. I'm trying to like barter 5 minutes for food.
Dude, people are teaching their kids like Chinese and shit. Like, and I'm saying, or like how to speak all these languages. Like, you got to teach them how to fight for resources, hand-to-hand combat. Like, fucking military training, using a knife.
Yeah, how to scale trees.
Yeah.
Actually, there won't be trees. There won't be trees. Yeah, that is, I don't know, how do you feel? Do you think the world's actually going to like how optimistic are you?
I think the world right now is in some kind of collapse phase, socially at least. But it doesn't mean it's going to collapse into nothing. I think it happens in society. And I think this is a good time for people with little means to rise up, but also to fall back, to slide back quicker than ever. So it is I think a volatile time for people, depending on who you are. But I'm optimistic that
like you're not on the like don't have kids, the world's fucked train.
No. I don't think you can stop people from having kids. I think we just need to get people more educated and get them access to information. Like the thing that really started politically that fucking pissed me off was the when they were with the whole internet thing. They were trying to do it. They change up the.
I know what you're talking about.
Neutrality.
Yeah.
That shit sounded scary. From what I read, I could be wrong about it.
Yeah.
But it sounded like poor people were going to have access to the internet, essentially, or at least as much as rich people, which is kind of fucked.
It's like it democratizes knowledge and learning. Like it's like the most important.
Yeah. And it's to me, if I'm a person with money that doesn't want to pay for, I don't want people paying off my whatever. This is the most passive way for you to get the poor population educated, because a lot of people are going on the internet and learning shit, and like even like from where I grew up and like different like neighborhoods and stuff like that around where I grew up, they become more empowered because of the internet. They know what brunch is. People know what brunch. I was like, oh my god, this is cool. Like,
yeah, you really can't like. My boyfriend uses Wikipedia like religiously, and I like so admire it. We were like, one time we were like ordered Chinese food, and then like went to the bathroom, and I came back and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm like reading the Wikipedia page for Chinese food. And I was like,
shit.
oh dude, that's so cool. Is that earlier you'd just be like, this chicken's tasty, but now you're like, oh, I'm learning about like the history of like an entire country, and it's like, if you choose to use it that way, it can be like incredible.
Yeah. People try to shit on the American version of other countries' food, but I feel like it's still good. Like with sushi, people are like, if it's deep fried, like, well, that's not real sushi. That's not how they do it in Japan. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It's still
But it's like
good.
a new culture that's kind of like, I don't want to say new. I don't mean to like, let's tread carefully. I just mean that when people like, okay, like for example, like Jewish food in America, right? Or like Jewish culture in America, like is sort of like a different, like being a Jewish American person is different from being an Israeli person. It's like America's such an interesting melting pot that it's like you can have your own like identity from wherever your family immigrated from, but then also it like feel like sort of like becomes something new in America. Like it's not just that and American. It's like those together make like a new thing.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting.
Fusion, yeah. What's your favorite food?
Ooh. I love like anything chocolate, but that's not like interesting. I like Chinese. It's my guilty pleasure is like Panda Express.
I like mall Chinese food. Like I know it's not the best quality, but there's still something about it.
Mall Chinese food is amazing.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. Yeah, I fuck with Panda Express. Like some people I feel like to either they like to shit on things because they're it's like trendy too, like shitting on chain restaurants or shitting on fucking. I don't know where I'm going.
Strip malls?
Yeah, they just shit on chain restaurants because there was like a trend where chain restaurants weren't a good place to eat, but you know the Bloomin' Onion from Outback is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love like California Pizza Kitchen.
That's another good one. Yes.
Love California Pizza Kitchen. They used to have these like Korean barbecue steak tacos.
Ooh.
They were amazing, and they took them off the menu, but still love them.
Sad day.
What about you? Favorite food?
I like the continent of Asia. So that's the most vague I could be. That their food is the best. Indian's great. I'd probably have to go with Chinese food or Japanese food. I'll say hibachi. I like the way, like the texture of the food. I can take it to go. I don't really need the whole show. But yeah, I would say that.
Nice. Oh, you know what food I just tried for the first time was a poke bowl?
Oh, damn. Those are...
Great.
Yeah. That's a really good one. It's like refreshing. You don't feel like a fat ass when you
it's a lot of food, so you feel full, but it's not like greasy or heavy.
Yes, yeah. You can still like continue your to-do list and shit.
What about you? 20 years from now in comedy, where do you want to be?
Oh, fuck that. I'm going to be, oh God, I'll be 50. I don't know. I'm hoping I could stay in Raleigh and just kind of be a touring. Here's my goal is I want to be able to sell out 5 shows a weekend at a decent amount of cities. I got to figure that out. But like definitely major cities. And I want to be able to do each hour not repeating a joke.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard Godfrey did that when he came to the Improv. And I was like, that's a great fucking goal. Because
that's
it focuses
crazy.
on like the ticket selling part, but also more importantly, like the part of like writing the fucking jokes. You got to have...
And also, imagine if you're doing like that many different hours, it's probably also like a lot of like crowd work and stuff thrown in there too. So you have to be like so comfortable
loose
and like
open and like
that's something
every aspect of like of the performance, I guess. Like,
yeah, that's something I'd like to get better at is like crowd work and being like loose on stage because or like when a room is like not really feeling it and be able to like talk to people and do crowd work until they're kind of on your side and then going into material.
Yes.
I do not have that skill right now and I admire it so much.
Do you attempt to dive in? Have you?
I have before, but like I think probably what I would need to do is just do that a bunch and eat shit a bunch and then eventually get better at it. And like, but it scares me so much the idea of like taking that risk. But I probably should. Like I have a friend who spent like basically like a year being like, I'm just gonna focus on crowd work. And then he got really fucking good at it. And now he could probably do like 20 minutes of crowd work, no problem. And like
that's
kill. It's incredible.
So I'm on the
Eric
same
Emerson,
page.
great comic.
Eric Emerson. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
he was on the
killer.
podcast.
He is. Oh, for real? Yeah. He's like killer at crowd work, and it's so amazing to watch. Yeah. It's really cool.
He's definitely he is a fun person to watch. Yeah, I did. I'm on the same page where I need to in my set be like, all right, in between this bit and this bit, like just jump and do crowd work because I did 20 minutes last week.
Oh damn, how'd it go?
It went really well, and I thought I would have to resort to crowd work, but I didn't. I still had 3 jokes I didn't use. And
hell yeah!
And it went well. I was like, all right, fuck yeah. I was like, all right, now I need to like make myself do crowd work because I think I'll be okay at it, but it's fucking scary as shit. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure, and there are all sorts of things too of I don't know, being able to weave it in and out of jokes too, like seamlessly. Like there's some people where you're like, oh, the only reason I knew what was crowd work and what was material is that I've heard those jokes before. But if you watch them, you couldn't tell if it seemed like all off the cuff. Like Ryan Higgins is like amazing at that. Yeah. Like that is such a cool skill to me too, where it's I remember another great Eric Trundy advice. He was saying something like about starting shows, about spending a year getting better at crowd work, starting shows, talking to people. And just doing crowd work until you hit a topic that you have a bit about and then going into that bit.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Which would be amazing. But I feel like you also would have to have a lot of material to do that. Because I'm like, really, how naturally are we going to get to cum or depression? Because unless it's a sad, gross audience, we're not segueing into my material that easily.
I just picture some old lady bringing up cum. Like, oh my, what the fuck is going on here? What do you think about the most?
Just like in life?
Yeah. First answer that comes to mind.
Oh Oh, that's sad that was the first thing that came to mind. I was gonna say like body image and like
but that's real
being
as
like
fuck.
attractive enough and like that's probably like that's actually saying that out loud is like, oh, I should maybe focus on some other stuff.
No. I mean, it's a fucking real thing. Like, I think you're an attractive person.
Oh, thank you.
If that has, like,
Let's just say for the camera, this is not my best look. Like I can spice it up a little bit if I need to.
yeah, you said we're being vulnerable here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that. But honestly, like being in a relationship kind of like changes that for me. Where you're like, oh well, now I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not trying to like perform like that all the time. So I can focus more on like thinking about like material or like I don't know. I think a lot about maybe a broader way to put that is like ways I could like improve myself as a person. Like I think I spend a lot of time thinking about like what I'm gonna do next, which is good. But it's also like, okay, you don't want to live like too much in the future. I think I definitely live like a lot in the future.
Yeah.
Partially anxiety, partially excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm either like, so, and then I dip into like worry sometimes, but then I'm like, I'm generally a happy person, but
Yeah.
But yeah, just because
like
I'm not present a lot of times.
Yeah, same. Because like if I do one thing, if I'm like reading a book, I'm like, this should be my new thing. I'm gonna read a book every week for the next year, and then I'll spend like the next week thinking about like how many books I'm gonna read, and then I'll do something else, and then be like, this is gonna be my new thing. I'm gonna do this for the next year, and then instead of just enjoying each of those things, I spend most of my time thinking about this cool person I'm gonna be once I do this thing all the time.
Shit. Oh my god, I feel the same exact way. To the point now where like whenever I'm in the house, I start ranting. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna do this now. My girlfriend just looks at me. She's like.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like,
yeah, like if I walk around a bookstore, I just like imagine like, what if I was the type of person who read these books all the time?
Yeah, like Aldous Huxley and shit, and like I understood it.
If I read this, I'd be so smart. And then I flip through it, and I'm like, I can't do that. And then I just keep going. What about you? What do you? Oh, sorry.
What do I think about the most? I just think about like, I don't know, really. It always changes for me. I always think about people and how they think, or like. You know, or the kind of, like, when you think about getting better, like, the type of person I want to be, and if I'm doing the things I need to do to get there. So, like, what do you do to be a better person? What are some things that you're working on?
I'm trying to, like, I realize that the best, like, if I start my day with if I do, like, yoga, meditate, and then write for a little bit, that's, dude, like, the best, like, I'll have a good day, and I'll write better if I do yoga and meditation first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn, that's some real shit, because even just starting off with a workout, it's like a game changer for me. But if you do all three of those, I don't write enough. Not even like personal journaling. Yeah,
that's really most of my, like, I just like free write, and then if something funny happens, I'll like underline it and then like come back to it. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, same. I don't write as much as I did when I started, which is like not great. But I used to like when I was in high school, just like stay up all night and like just like pages, and it would be like nonsense. But then there'd be like two things in there that I would like keep. I think that was part of it too. Is I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I started, so I would try anything, and now I cut ideas off in my head faster because I'm like, that's stupid, that won't work. And it's like, I need to let go of that and be more like I was when I was 16 and be like trying weird shit.
Be fucking free, yeah.
Like I did a weird character one time at a mic about like living in a pea, like a pod. Yeah. Which is like ridiculous and not funny. Like it was bad, it wasn't good, but I like put my glasses on, I was like, I live in a pea, and it was like not good, but
I feel like
at least I tried it.
Chapel Hill, just living in a fucking pea pod.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, I would never try that shit now, but because I'm like, oh, well, I don't really do like all comedy, and it's like, even if it was bad, I was like, I would like to be able to branch out more and try shit and not be like scared, but it's kind of like, now I'm like, oh, well, it feels like high stakes, and it's like, is it high stakes, bitch? Nobody knows who you are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's totally in my own head.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You'll be fine.
What about you? How do you think your writing or like your thought process about it has changed since you started?
I'm being a little bit more free on stage because I figured like that's for me, that's where the funny comes. It's kind of like unfiltered, just like weird thought. It may not be traditional setup punch, but I just talk about, and also attaching like the feeling about what I want to talk about. Not just doing it because I know this 5 minutes is whatever. It's like, I don't feel like talking about the good shit today. I want to do this other stuff, and that helps me add more tags and stuff like on stage.
Do you write on stage a lot?
I write on stage, and I started videoing my sets, so I usually watch.
Oh, that's smart.
I watch my set after and then before I go on stage, or like.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if I know like there's certain jokes I want to work on, I'm like, how am I doing it now? And then as I'm listening to it, like the tags or whatever, well, sometimes they come like.
That's awesome. Wait, so have you noticed like any like physical tics or like when you, what shocked you most when you first watched a video of yourself performing?
I was tight. I was like, I know for a fact that's not how I move around. Because Bill Burr said before you start stand up, you're the guy at the bar, whatever, girl making everybody laugh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you spend the next 10 years trying to be that person on stage.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, let me see how I fucking move. And then I was like, I don't move, I'm not stiff like that. And
wow.
Yeah, social situation. So I'm like, my thing was, I work on like things, like, so moving around, segues, things like that. But for me, it's just been like getting more comfortable. And the next phase of that is jumping into the crowd and just kind of doing crowd work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and having the balls to like stick to weird things and say what like the first thing that comes to mind. So
that is like a weird thing of trying to meet like who you are in real life and who you're on stage and being like do I have the skill to? I feel like it's kind of like you know how like when you're a kid and you're like can visualize like a horse but you can't draw it.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh, I know what this should be, but I don't have the physical skills to like manifest it. I feel like sometimes stand-up feels like that, where you're like, oh, I need to spend the next 15, 20 years just having the tools to like do this. Because you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. Like if I'm talking about like sex and shit, and I'm like, I think I have more interesting thoughts like that, but I don't know how to make them funny. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to make sex funny. It's not easy to make like a thing about like something, you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you gone back to old jokes when you first started and made them better? Or?
Yeah, there actually have been some. Or like I've read through an old notebook and been like, oh, that was funny. And at the time, I wasn't good enough to, like I had an idea and I was like, but I didn't have the skills to like put it into a joke. And then I go back and read it and I'm like, oh, now I think I know how I could set that up differently and make it work. Like I see where I went wrong kind of. Or it's just maybe like also the time spent away from it where it's like coming at it with like fresh eyes. I don't know. Do you?
There was, I can't think of the joke. There is one I can't think about it now. But I was just thinking about you said having the tools. And I was just thinking about how I look at them as weapons. So like stand-up's like the journey, and like your first good joke or whatever is like the one weapon you have, and you try to go up there and use that one weapon. You have that, like when you first start, you have like a couple weapons, and you just go into the battle with that. Whereas like now, I feel like I got like a quiver of arrows, I got like a dagger here. Like, I go in like empty-handed because I got to see what's up first. So like I feel a little bit more relaxed. That like super duper anxiety before going on stage has gone down a little bit, which helps a ton to like to be a little more loose.
Did you have that a lot at first?
Oh God, oh my God. There was a couple of times where this is probably my most notable comedy moment, was like within the first year. I was at a music mic, so then they're not ready for jokes or anything like that. It was hockey playoffs, and that was going on, and they were doing live music. It was a packed bar, and I signed up, ate some wings, I overate, so I was like, fuck this, I'm going home. I was like, this place isn't gonna want to listen to my comedy, so I go home, and then I'm fucking pacing in my living room, just like, you fucking pussy, like you just went there and you bitched out, whatever, beat myself up. So then I went back, and I ended up doing like 8 minutes. And got everyone from like watching playoff hockey to turning around laughing.
Seriously?
Yeah, dude. I was like,
wow.
Oh, shit. And that was the first time I had ever went to the crowd because it was so high pressure. I was like, fuck it. I was like, yeah, you do that at the bar. You like just go into the crowd or whatever. And at the end they were laughing. And that was the first moment I was like, okay, I think I could do this. I was like 4 months in. I was like, okay, I think I can maybe figure this out. I don't know. That's
awesome. Yeah, I remember I did something like a music mic, and it was in like a college town, and so it was like all like like sorority and frat people like at this bar, like drinking, like talking really loud. It's like music playing, and I was like 16, and I remember just going in there and at one point just going, like just yelling, and everyone was like, what the fuck? And then I would like try to really fast go into jokes and be like, no, listen. And like, it was a horrible tactic. And then I left and it was so bad.
Did you get him with that at all?
No. Mine is not a story of redemption. It's,
So you're in a relationship now?
Yeah.
Nice. Is he funny?
He's super funny. He's a comic, so like, everyone's, there's this comic in Chicago named Lily Shoulder who has the funniest joke. They're like, talking about how everyone's like, oh, don't date comics, like, don't shit where you eat. And they're like, yeah, but what if the toilet is in the kitchen? That's Lily's Shoulder. That's their joke. But God, it's so funny. And it's so true. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a lot of fun.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know. Yeah, Chicago just in general has been like cool, and it's someone's ringing. The camera's ringing.
Yeah, the camera.
But yeah. Wait. Also, I never asked you. How did you? Is that well-trodden territory on this podcast, or
How I started?
yeah,
That's all right, we can
or
say it
why
again.
you started?
I was depressed. I thought about killing myself probably a few weeks before.
Oh, wow.
And I was already like, I was like, I got to do something, whatever to put myself out there. And I heard Bill Burr was giving advice to one of his listeners, and he said write 5 minutes of material and hit an open mic. And I didn't. I lived up until that point. I didn't know that that's all it took. So I was like, all right, let me just give it a shot. And I went to the Deep South open mic, which is another music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got some laughs there, and I was like, fuck yeah, like this is like, it just felt really good.
Wow.
And I could tell by the look on my girl's face, she was like, oh, I'm curious to see where you take this, like, and she's like a very real person. She wouldn't like blow smoke up my ass, and when she said that, I was like, oh, I think I could do something. I don't know. I was very hopeful with it, and it gave me like a purpose. I was like, oh, it made my work days better. It made my professional life better because I'm more comfortable now. I don't like put these people on a pedestal. It's completely changed my life, and I love it. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like the best thing in the world,
It's so
right?
yeah, and it's so weird too. For the most part, there's a few exceptions, but like I feel more comfortable around comics than I do like any other.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking crazy. Like
Yeah, I click with comics so easy. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you're like, oh yeah, it's like
yeah,
it's so easy to get along with, and it's just such a like.
and it brings
Yeah, like
up-
similar
it
wavelength.
brings together so many different fucking people. So
Yeah,
it's
people you
always, like,
never would have met ever.
Oh, yeah, right? Like-
I was like in high school friends with like 45-year-old like divorced dads that I like never would have met except in like a Lifetime movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like unless there was like a tragedy. And like and now they're like my best friends. Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, I had Kenny on here. He was talking about when him and I were partying and stuff, and I was like doing the math in my head. I was like, all right, he was over 18. I was like, what the? I don't know. Where can people find you, Maddie?
I am on everything at Maddie T Wiener. MADDIETWIENER.
Awesome. And before we go, you got 15 seconds. Look into the camera and say whatever you want to the listeners.
Oh, I love you. Life is really fun, and the world's a cool place, and it's cool. We're all lucky to be here.
Oh, fuck yeah, Maddie. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.